There's been some debate over whether or not the Pokemon games need voice acting. The title card is the infamous scene where Piers sings in Sword and Shield. Well, sings. I'll link the full scene in the description below, but man is it painful to watch. It is 20 seconds of Piers having his mouth move but no audio coming out of him, despite him being a singer and he is supposed to be singing. This is especially embarrassing when we don't have this issue in the DS games. Roxy in Burbank City in Black and White 2 will spell out Doggers, which is Kof King's Japanese name, or Pokemon, depending on which side of the ocean you're on. Meanwhile, in Nimbasa City, we have some English incorporated into the soundtrack, such as vocals that say, "Are you ready?" or "Give me what I need." Again, Black and White 2. This came out in 2012 for crying out loud. Sword and Shield came out in 2019. This is embarrassing because this is out of the sprites and into the 3D models. The contrast between the lack of audio advancement and the visual advancement is jarring. So, where exactly do I sit on the whole voice acting debate? Well, I tend to err on the side of optimization. If you're going to make an all text game, then make the game all text. Don't include scenes like this one where characters are supposed to be talking or singing, only to not. Ardix Entertainment makes purely text based RPGs in Flash, and the engines are from like 2002 and like 2006, my favorite of which is Dragon Fable. Yeah, the base engine, I think, was made in 2006 as a beta. Yeah, that's a long time ago. All the dialogue is text-based without sound effects, but it can be engaging. After all, books are engaging. Except, even in an RPG like this, there are moments where it deviates from the pure text-based nature of the game, which actually is pretty good on the developers. One such scene is the three words voiced right here, "but I do." Yeah, in context, this is the climax of a storyline, so breaking the status quo of no voice acting, just text, makes for a really powerful and impactful scene, and this isn't the only example. In another storyline, the villain Kadif is possessing the corpse of one of your friends. Long story there. Long story short, the climax, this is how the dialogue is managed and how it changed. Normally, the text is instantaneous upon a click. But not only is this effect changed, the text now appears letter by letter, followed by sound effects as if this was the typewriter from Undertale. I'm not sure what that sound effect is called, but I think it's a typewriter to indicate speech, which indicates that Kadif is using the voice of your friend in order to make you, well, get an emotional reaction. And I wish I could explain this to you better, but I'll have to link it below. This works. It makes the climax a bit more impactful. Now, let's loop back to Pokemon right here. What I'm trying to say is that you can stay text-based, but make it so you don't have these cringy concert scenes like Piers. If you want to stay primarily text-based, then that's not stopping you from having any characters say anything. In Pokemon Masters, that mobile spin-off gotcha title, we have like voice actors say 2 minutes worth of dialogue, give or take. There's quite a lot of text in this game. It is a mobile gotcha after all, so the storylines are going to have a lot of audio recycling. I applaud the effort of making these characters feel real because it's, well, makes a nice segue into the next issue. I know I've been harping on Sword and Shield a lot, but the problem is also present in Scarlet and Violet. There are scenes where characters just plain yell at us. Nimona yelling, "You did it," doesn't feel as impactful without voice acting. Her body language says completely different things than what's actually coming out of her mouth, which is nothing. Then there's Kieran's battle cry right before we take his title of Blueberry Champion. Or when he does the battle cry again right before he joins us in battle. These are moments that are supposed to be emotionally impactful, and the speed lines are there in order to show that he's screaming. Nothing's coming out of his mouth, and the only thing that's keeping the scene together is the soundtrack, frankly. Then there is the situation with the Pokemon anime. When the anime initially began, it was more or less a pretty direct adaptation of the games. Sure, things were changed, such as Ash and Pikachu, rather than any of the canonical starters, or any of the other things such as rivals and other characters and concepts left on the cutting room floor or were composited into other characters. But let's be honest, when the Pokemon anime began, The games themselves were pretty bare bones in terms of plot and lore. Sure, there were character stories such as Silver's, but it is nowhere near the level of story like what we have now. But as the years passed, it became pretty clear that the games and the anime were developing different identities and developing along different lines. This can probably be seen best in Black and White, the anime and the games, where they had to rewrite the Team Plasma plot because Team Plasma pulled its source material from the original Black and White games. While we cannot say for certain, only just the scripts that were leaked in like 2023, we basically had a bridge to nowhere because this had to be scrapped, rewritten, and repurposed into the Black and White 2 plot, plus some Team Rocket stuff on the side, which was repurposed assets from the original Team Rocket Team Plasma episodes. This led to some characterization and plot deviations from the games, which, you know that old adage where when you try to impress everybody, you impress nobody? That's pretty much how this plot ended up. The cracks were basically shown right here. After the XY anime, which has seen more of an expansion of XY's game storyline, which at the same time left a lot of things on the cutting room floor, such as AZ's storyline and Emma, we get the Sun and Moon anime, which completely uprooted the old formula. I'll grant you, the Sun and Moon games did also uproot the formula, except it uprooted the formula in a different way. While the island trials are synonymous to gyms in ways, there is the fact that the Sun and Moon games and the Ultra games took more of a story heavy approach to them. At the forefront of the Sun and Moon games and the Ultra games is the Ether family drama and the Ultra Beast. While the anime took a more slice of life approach. Yes, elements such as the Ultra Beast and the Ether family plot would be incorporated into the anime, but generally, that was not the driving force. The driving force was more slice of life stuff. Then there's Pokemon Journeys, a controversial series which did its own thing completely, with sub-nods to Galar. The Galar discourse was quite strong because, well, this is the most recent series, it literally ended in March of this year. Because the globe-trotting basically distracted them from promoting Galar. Say what you want about Sun and Moon, all of it, well, most of it, took place in Alola. Barely any of Journeys took place in Galar. Meanwhile, Horizons is also doing the globe-trotting thing, except it's trying to tie it into the Tropicos lore, and it's also trying to build its own characters and supporting cast, which I do appreciate. So, what am I trying to say here, and why is this anime stuff even relevant to the point of whether the games need voice acting or not? Well, think about it this way. The anime and the games had developed on completely different paths. With how the games are conducting themselves now, it feels like we are getting an incomplete experience. Like I said before, everything else about Nimona in this scene says she is screaming, from the facial expressions to the body language, yet she doesn't have a voice. It makes the scene feel completely hollow. It feels half-finished. Nimona at least got the honor of having a voice in the Horizons anime, but she's a one-off character in that anime. She hasn't appeared since, like, what, episode 8? Nobody is doing her storyline, which is the gym challenge and Victory Road. What about other characters we like and we want to see voiced? Characters that I like, such as Kieran and Carmine, they only got a cameo in an anime adaptation called Paldean Winds. What about Sada and Turo? What about Arven? What about Penny? It feels weird experiencing these characters in the game and then going on and saying, oh, I'll wait for the anime to debut them to hear their voice and see their personality fully fleshed out. This isn't a manga where the only sound paper makes is turning. This is a game. Pokemon's mainline entries are just unwilling to add sound, even to moments where the characters are screaming. Seriously, even Bowser in New Super Mario Bros. Roars, and sound comes out of his mouth. Hell, Legends Arceus is a mainline game, and at least Ray and Akari grunt a bit. I don't know why we haven't had fully voice acted storylines, especially if you're trying to be more plot driven in this game. You do everything else to make the storyline seem mildly serious. You make the characters emote, you add the sound lines, you add the music. Why is the voice acting the hard part? Thank you for watching this video. Please consider hitting the subscribe button, tipping the channel on Ko-fi. This is Cyril signing off.